Good morning, the delegation of Denel. The computer named Denel is the one that's going to fly it because I've made it a co-host.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we will be able to. Thank you, sir.
Honorable members, good morning. I will only give 1 to 2 minutes for everybody to be settled down so that we can
Recording in
start
progress.
Good morning once again, all the honorable members who are part and parcel of this portfolio committee for public enterprises. You all welcome. Also welcoming our guests from Denel, board and the executive. We also welcome the ministry who will be actually leading the Denel team, also to the public media and the staff of the portfolio committee. This is our normal portfolio committee meeting where we'll be engaging Denel, who will be presenting to us on the progress regarding the implementation of the turnaround strategy. We all know where we're coming from with the Denel. We also know the problems and challenges that they are facing. And it is in that context that today we felt as this committee that we need to be taken into confidence and also be briefed as to where are they in terms of improving the situation in that particular entity, which is very strategic and very important for our country. Without wasting time, let me go to the Secretary of the Portfolio Committee, Denel Tisang, to help us with apologies if there is anyone.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, guests. I haven't received any apologies for today's meeting, Chair.
Thank you, Tisang. I think you are okay. Tisang, I think you are experiencing the same problem I'm having at home. We have just been load shedded. I hope I won't be having that shaky voice. If members feel that I'm losing it, they must appreciate that this is the situation and I will try if it comes to a push to live and get some other place somewhere. But for now, I hope I'm still heard by everybody. Can we go to the ministry? I've noticed that we do have Deputy Minister. Deputy Minister, can you also start by your overview and you give over to your team? Welcome, Mr. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to all honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, and also greetings to the board members of Denel, I know led by Ms. Gloria Sorobe, and also the management of Denel led by the acting CEO, Mr. Hobe. Chair, is the meeting that you have organized for Denel to come and present on progress in as far as the turnaround plan is concerned. So we'll not have much from the shareholder side, safe to say we are here to also back them up. Should there be areas that need our responses? But otherwise, we will then give to the board as people who will then lead on the introduction of the matter, and then also then the management then to present as is. And they are all sitting in the same room at the dinner. And therefore, Chair, with that, I will not want to waste the committee's time. And through you, allow, if you do so, the Chair of Denel to then introduce the team and everybody who is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Is that penetration?
I don't know whether it's my problem. I hardly hear you.
I keep getting in and out. Can you hear me now?
Can the host help us to settle Mrs. Zerope?
It's not the host problem. I'm in Stellenbosch. So, and there's load shedding here. It's on and off. So let me try. Can you hear me now?
Yes, but I will advise you to remove the face. At least we saw you now. We can just, it will improve if we don't, you don't
Yes.
appear on the screen.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to make sure you know I'm here. Thank you very much. I'm in a wrong place, so I'm in and out of the network. But let me quickly introduce. Thank you, Deputy Minister. But the Denel team is here. Let me
I think we have a problem.
Am I?
No, you're not. We can't hear you at all.
Yes, it keeps disappearing.
Yeah, can somebody else come in on your behalf? Because I think we'll have a problem with you forever.
Mine is done, Chairman. I just wanted to introduce the team. So Mike must start doing the presentation. The CEO and the CFO and the executive. So they can go ahead. Thank you, Chairman. I'm in Stellenbosch, in the wrong place. So I think extension is also on my...
Okay, thank you. CEO?
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Mike Kobe, as introduced. I am the interim Group Chief Executive of Denel. We have prepared, and maybe just before I proceed, I think to also mention that we also have Mayor Ramano, who is also one of the board members and a member of the Audit and Risk Committee, also joining us in the presentation. I think we have prepared a presentation that we are flighting now. Joining me in the room is the interim group chief financial officer, Thandeka Sabela, as well as the group treasurer and the group head of strategy implementation for support, and the company secretary. What we have prepared in front of you.
Sorry, Group CEO. Can we have just a one glimpse of you guys, just once, okay, and then within a minute you can switch? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Can you see us, Chairperson? I am sitting at the end of the table. Next to me is the Group CFO.
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you. You look good.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. If you then allow us, we'll switch off the video and go into the presentation for the day. As I was saying, is that we'll just give an overview of the Denel status and relevance, and I think you have summed it up in terms of the strategic nature of the organization, especially in relation to national security. We'll give an overview of the status of implementation of the turnaround plan, the people side, in terms of how we have stabilized the human resource side of the business. Thandeka will come in and give an overview of the financial sustainability and way forward, as well as summarizing it with priority actions and way forward. So that is the structure of our presentation for today. If we move on, I think it's always important to reflect in terms of the role of Denel, that being a strategic partner for innovative defense and security-related technologies, grouping together the different divisions and associate companies with a primary focus of designing and developing prime mission equipment for our own national defense force. We get our mandate from the Defense Review Policy of 2015. We won't read verbatim, but Section 15, paragraph 95 talks to Denel being a national security asset with the primary purpose of designing, developing, manufacturing, and supporting defense material. In addition, to Denel is charged with the main custodian of the sovereign strategic capabilities, as well as designing, developing, manufacturing, and supporting this prime mission equipment for the defense force. And I think from that we remain primarily responsible for most of the primary mission equipment that is deployed with the defense force and supports it in whether it's locally, as we saw with the floods, as well as externally with some of the deployments particularly into our continent. If we move on to the next slide, the primary mission equipment is deployed right across the services of the defense force. Without going into the detail, to say that within the army, we have the prime mission equipment deployed there, as well as some of the services that we support the defense force with in terms of ground-based air defense equipment. I think most of the vehicles that we see that the army has are Denel products, and we continue to support them. Similarly, within the Air Force, the three main primary mission equipment being Oryx, the Royfalk, and the C-130 transport aircraft are supported by Denel and continue to be supported by Denel. These are the systems that are used a lot, particularly in terms of the deployments that the Defence Force has. Additionally, we have the missile systems from Denel that are deployed in the Air Force, as well as the support services with through the Air Force. Similarly, with the Navy, with the ships, inshore patrol vessels, we have some of our weapon systems installed there. We have some of our missile systems, the Mkonto missile, that is also utilized by the Navy in protecting our shores, and some of the main guns that are installed on the ships. So as we can see, the primary mission equipment, especially deployed by the services of the National Defence Force, is Denel equipment, and it remains important for Denel to remain sustainable, to be able to support the Defence Force in the execution of its mandate. It's always important to just reflect in terms of where we come from, and we take it from 2016, where we had a healthy order book of around 23 billion, which we had that we continued to execute, and that we executed over the years to date. We are currently sitting with an order book of about 8.7 billion now, as of 2023. Now, this 8.7 billion is orders that are executable over a number of years. And it translates into the revenue that, if we look to the right, that we've had over the years since 2016, where at our peak, we're at about an 8.2 billion business. To today, as we close the March 2023 financial year, we're sitting at 1.46 billion rands. We can see how the revenue has gone down over the years, and the task that we have at hand is to grow that revenue and the order book back to where it needs to be to ensure sustainability. I think we see a similar trend in terms of the people, where at our peak around 2016, we had close to 5,000 people employed in the organization, whereas at 2023, we're sitting at 1,670. We have seen, I think over the years, it's been reported, an exit of people. We are in the process of stabilizing the organization, stabilizing particularly the human resource side of it, so that we reposition the business for sustainability and growth into the future. Which is why, as part of our turnaround plan, we had initiated a restructuring effort to ensure that we have the correct skills mix, because what we've seen since 2016 to date with the exit of people is that our skills match has not been the correct one, and we have been required through the turnaround plan to restructure the skills base to ensure that we have the correct technical skills to take the organization forward. I think similarly, and I'll ask Thandeka just to touch a bit around the solvency position of the organization, where we come from and where we're going. With those 3 years where the solvency was at a critical stage. Thandeka.
Good morning, honorable members. The solvency of position really is aligned to the what we see in terms of revenue of the business over the years and the reduction in the order book. But also just talks to where our balance sheet was over the years, and particularly then the 3 years where you see the position where we were insolvent. In the years that the revenue and profits were fairly healthy, we were solvent from a 2.3 billion. But as we saw a reduction in revenue without the change or or change in the structural changes in the income statement, we then see the business still reducing its solvency position up until it became insolvent, which means that on a balance sheet level, its liabilities were higher than its assets, and there was no equity coming through from a performance basis to buffer that on a profitability leg. In the 3 years in 2019, 2020, 2021, we were really insolvent to the tune of about 3 billion. And that was partially resolved with the funding received from government to deal with the debt in the year 2022. And that's why you see an improvement in 2022. And further in 2023, then we received further funding that was announced in the medium-term budget speech in October 2022, and the funds received in March 2023. But what was important in order to support the turnaround or the change to be sustained moving forward, there needed to be structural changes, and that is what the turnaround plan seeks to address. That for this to be sustainable, there needs to be structural changes that reset the organization in the short term to deal with its immediate order book, whilst we increase the order book in the medium and long term. And then, of course, align our business to a client environment so that we can attract the right clients in the products that we provide. And then review our processes, internal processes, in terms of making sure that we deliver to clients on time and on budget. And of course, as we've previously articulated, that the turnaround plan does require the funding which has been subsequently received through the recap.
Thank you. So in terms of Chair, in terms of the turnaround plan, I think it's important to start it off with the strategic framework of the turnaround plan, where we looked at a reduction of, and it's anchored on these pillars that we want to go through. A reduction of cost and an increasing of the revenue. I think through the reduction of the cost reduction, we've also, with the restructuring, have achieved that, as well as looking at our footprint. And there's a huge drive in terms of export revenue. Export revenue we're emphasizing because we have also acknowledged a reduction in our local defense force spend, and that we need to look at other revenue streams that will sustain the company going forward. So there's a strong pillar around the reduced cost and increased revenue to sustain the organization into the future. The organization is a people organization. The most of the things that we do is people based, and it's important to have an engaged staff who are performance orientated. And part of our plan is to embed a performance culture and ensure that our employees are engaged in the activities of the organization. And increased revenue and export talks to an increased customer base. It also talks to diversifying the risks that we may have on a single customer, being our own national defense force, and diversifying that customer base to a wider customer base from around the globe. For us to execute the orders that we go out and look for, we need to have an effective supply chain that is also anchored on the principles that government gives in terms of preferential procurement and equitable procurement. The efficiency of the organization it remains key. We have to optimize our planning and production to ensure that we become efficient in the execution. I think what we've seen over the years is with the challenges that the organization has had, an erosion of some of the capabilities that are there. Part of our current drive is a restoration of those capabilities to get them to be efficiently organized and managed to execute on the orders that we are busy working on. We We have also acknowledged that we will need to have a different way of a different business model that is anchored around partnerships and joint ventures, partnerships both locally within South Africa, where we partner with the local defense industry, as well as the international partners that we have. And what we also say through that pillar of partnerships and joint ventures is that the partnerships need to give us access to market, need to give us access to technology, and need to give us access to finances, be it revenue or otherwise. So those are the pillars of the strategy. And then we have faced the strategy, if we go to the next slide, over time around stabilizing the organization, sustaining the organization, and ensuring growth. In stabilizing the organization, which we've been able to achieve since the receipt of some of the cash that we realized from the Denel Medical Benefit Trust, that enabled us to stabilize the employee base, to pay the backlog of salaries that we had, to start to get the suppliers that the organization had that had not been paid to be paid, to start to get activity going. We have been by and large able to stabilize the organization through the injection of the DMBT funds, which was done in August of last year. And I think with the recap that subsequently came through, the 3.4 billion rands that National Treasury recapitalized the business with, which came through, has gone a long way in terms of stabilizing. And through that stabilizing, we have been able to initiate our restructuring process to right size the resources of the organization to the revenue base, and to also reposition in terms of a new business model that we will show later, where we are moving from the current 6 divisions to 4 divisions, and also optimizing support functions within the organization, where we are employing a shared services model across the organization for common services like finance, human resources, ICT support, and so forth. Whereas before we used to have each division having its own finance, HR, and supply chain, we are employing a shared services model that brings efficiency, cost efficiency into the organization, and we see the realization of cost savings through that. We are moving into the sustained phase of the turnaround plan, which talks to securing the existing customer base. I think over the past few months, we've had extensive engagements with our own AMSCO, the procurement agency of the Defence Force, to restart some of the key programs that were on pause because of the challenges that the organization had, where we have been able to restart activities around the Hoefyster program, which is the infantry combat vehicle for our National Defence Force that had been on pause for the past 5 years. We have also been able to restart activities around one of the key missiles for our own South African Air Force, the A-Data missile. We have restarted activities after extensive engagements with AMSCO and the services, the Army and the Air Force. I think we are in the phase where, and we'll talk a bit about that in terms of the next steps, as part of closing out on the restructuring activities, we will move into the four key divisions that we have, and that will require us to align our processes and so forth. As we said, we have received the funding from the recapitalization. The funding was received at the end of March, the 3.4 billion, and it was transferred on the basis that Denel had met some of the conditions that were set by National Treasury, and we have had since access to 55% of those funds, and through that 55% access to, which is about 1.8 billion, we have been able to fast track some of the sustained activities and around the turnaround phase. I think the detail Tandeka will the group CFO will touch on when we go through the finances. In terms of, we are now moving into the growth phase. The growth phase looks at identification of new revenue streams. We are actively involved, opportunity-based, right across the world in terms of opportunities that we've identified that in some instances there have been requests for proposals, requests for offers that we've received from the international world, countries, and we are busy responding to that. That will seek to address the revenue side of the business, where we need to grow the export.
Chair, I'm not sure if I'm the only one who's now struggling to hear the presenter, but I can hear what is being said now.
Yeah, I also said, Group CEO, Group hello, Group CEO. Yeah, it's gone. Deputy Minister, these guys have disappeared now. I think they've been disconnected.
If we can wait a bit for them to reconnect, because they're in the same boardroom, and all
Yes.
of them, when they disappear all.
Okay. Let's just be patient, honorable members, for a few minutes.
Hi, GM.
Hi, Chairperson, Ma'am Glorious Robbie.
Okay, so it must be the Denel office thing then.
Yeah, it kicked them, all of them, but the parliamentary people, probably administration, will reconnect with them now. Let's give them a chance, as the chair has alluded to be patient a bit. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Desang, is the streaming services are helping us? Desang?
Good morning again. We are back in.
Okay, you
Can you
back?
hear us?
Yes.
Yes, we are back. Apologies, we lost connection.
Yeah, we noticed that. Can you go ahead?
We're gonna fly the presentation. I don't know where we lost me, but I was on slide 9, Chair, summarizing slide 9.
So my apologies. Can you make us co-host again?
Chair, can we be made co-host so that we can share the presentation? I was, Chair, if you allow me to continue, I was summarizing this slide in terms of the different phases. What the focus is going to be in the next year. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear now.
Okay, thank you. I was summarizing to say that in the next year we are finalizing with the restructuring. We, in terms of concluding the 189, the Labor Relations Act 189 process, we will then migrate into the new structure where we had six operating divisions. We will have 4 operating divisions clustered into capability areas. We will then proceed to populate the structure in terms of getting some of the key skills appointed in the position, stabilize the leadership, and continue with our activities of securing new orders to ensure that we are on track in terms of the growth trajectory that we see emerging. I think to emphasize this point is that we are busy pursuing opportunities which are real, where we have at least received from one country a request for order that we will be, or for offer that we will be responding to, with hopefully having success to win those orders and get their business into the organization. If we move into the next slide, it just summarizes the Denel going forward, as we start to populate the structure and the structure that we will migrate into. As part of the turnaround plan, we had said that we will be structuring 2 capability areas, the 4 capability areas being guided weapons, which will focus on the missile business, as well as the precision guided munitions, which is what we call the smart bombs, that will be housed in that capability. It's a capability that we have focused, that we are busy restoring. It is the capability that we had lost some significant skills that we've seen progress over the past few months in terms of restoring capabilities and having activities, which is how we've restarted activities for our own Air Force with their air-to-air missile. The landward capability consolidates three divisions, which is what we know traditionally as PMP, which is the small to medium arms company, which produces ammunition for the weapons. It also consolidates the vehicle side of the business, vehicle systems, landward vehicles, which is what we traditionally know as Denel vehicle systems. And the third part of it is what we've known as Denel land systems, which was what we call the firepower. That's where all the small to big guns are basically designed and developed and manufactured. So we will consolidate this into a landward capability area, and manage it as a capability area like that going forward, as well as support, maintenance support for most of these products that we would have developed for our own defense force and the export world. The third capability area being the air or aerospace capability, which consolidates the aircraft side of the business, which supports the Roy Falk, the C-130 and the Oryx. We also consolidate the unmanned aerial vehicles systems business, which was traditionally with the Denel Dynamics. We will consolidate this because at the end of the day, it is an aircraft and the similarity of processes. And the third component to this capability area is the test and evaluation capability. We have a world-class test and evaluation facility in the Overberg area of the Western Cape, where we test these weapons that we develop, the vehicles that we develop, the weapons that we develop. We take them through extensive testing through that test facility. So we will manage this under the aerospace capability. And then the fourth aspect of it, which is going to be an area of focus as well as diversification, is what we call the integrated systems solutions business. This capability area deals with the sophisticated integration of systems, and this is how we are able to protect the South African airspace through the ground-based air defense system that was developed by Denel. The growth opportunity here, Chair, is diversifying into civil security solutions, into cyber, and especially where we are seeing some of the damage that is done to the infrastructure. We have developed solutions that would assist, particularly in terms of surveillance of some of the key infrastructure that we have, some of the national key points that we have. And we see this as an area of diversification, as I say, into civil security. We still have, as part of this operating model, associate companies where Denel owns a minority shareholding. We have the Rheinmetall Denel Munitions, where we still own 49%, that we will retain the 49%. We have a company based in the UAE called the Barrage Dynamics, which we formed with the UAE state-owned company Edge to form a joint venture with them. We own 49% of this company, and we will retain that 49% of ownership of that company, as well as the Hensoldt South Africa, which is where we own 30%. Now, with Hensoldt, and as we talk to the turnaround plan, we had identified it as an area where we could diversify or divest out of and sell the 30% shares that we have. It's a process that is done under the PFMA that is currently with both the DPE and National Treasury in terms of the sale of those shares. So that is how the structure of the organization will look, with a common shared services that will support the business. It's a leaner structure. It's much more cost effective, and it will help to sustain the capabilities going into the future. I think if we look at the next two slides, Chair, it basically takes us to where we had since 2018 with the board had started a process of understanding the key capability areas, what we deemed critical to sustaining defense capabilities in the country, and what we saw as non-core that we could divest of and get some cash where we are able to sell some of the shares, get cash into the business, and to focus. This is aligned to a memorandum of cooperation that the DPE is concluding with the DoD that identifies sovereign strategic capabilities and what needs to be kept and what needs to be sold. So it's really just a slide that shows what we have exited, what we will, what we have exited, and what we have retained, and how we are going to grow and optimize some of these capabilities. We just put it into highlight. I think even the next two slides, because the next slide as well, because it also picks up from the Defense Review Policy 2015, which is really the guidance that we get in terms of where we get our mandate in terms of capabilities. This slide just shows how we have then classified them or grouped them into the different capability areas of landward, aerospace, guided weapons, and integrated systems. It just depicts it in a different way. The next slide talks to another key area that we had identified as part of our turnaround, where we were sitting on a huge property portfolio, which was inefficiently utilized, where we've come up with ways through the turnaround plan of optimizing the property, of reducing our footprint on the property, and identifying property for rental to get rental income on, or where it is deemed not strategic to identify that property for disposal, to sell that property to get cash into the business as part of the turnaround plan. I think the group CEO will take the committee through the sources of revenue that we had identified, or of income that we had identified, as part of recapitalizing the business. And the sale of property was identified as one of those that we would then have to get alternative income into the business to help with the turnaround. I think in summary, without going through the detail, our next steps is to consolidate the three main campuses that we highlight there. Is to consolidate the Kempton Park campus, reduce the space as we've indicated, and have that done. We are on track actually to conclude that by March, and to get additional rental revenue from the spaces that we would have exited. The Irene campus, which is where we house the Denel head office as well as the missile business. We've also identified parts of the business where we no longer require, we've had long-term tenants there. Is an opportunity to sell the property, and we are busy with that process of selling that property as part of the turnaround plan as a source of income to get cash in. And then the third aspect is a property that we have in Benoni, where we had the Denel vehicle systems business that we've identified for disposal. We have since relocated the people to our Littleton campus in Pretoria, with a view to sell the Benoni campus, because we will not have a need for it going into the future, and optimize it in that fashion. So that is the progress in terms of property optimization. I think the other non-cores, what we term non-cores that we had identified as a way of bringing income for the business, was the sale of the 30% shares that I spoke about in Hensoldt Optronics. That process is underway. We concluded a PFMA application in January, and it's currently under consideration between the DPE, National Treasury, as well as inputs from the DOD. The second aspect of it is the sale of Denel gear ratio, where we deemed it Denel gear ratio as part of Denel vehicle systems. It was we deemed it as non-core, and therefore that we could sell. We got approval to sell the business in December. The unfortunate part is that the buyer that had been identified has not met all the conditions or their obligation, and we've since had to go back into the process with the transaction advisor to get another buyer for this gear ratio business. We spoke extensively about the Denel Medical Benefit Trust, which has since been concluded. I think the Denel Medical Benefit Trust enabled the organization to stabilize in the payment of salaries and to start to pay some of the key creditors that we had that needed to be paid that had not been paid to enable business. It has gone a long way in supporting us to restore activities within the business. And then I spoke about the property portfolio that we have identified for disposal for additional rental. That process is underway. Part of it is to sell the property that Rheinmetall Denel Munitions is currently operating out of, and to sell that to Rheinmetall Denel. It's a process that we are busy with, as well as the sale of the property that Hensoldt currently sits on. So those processes, with the transaction advisor that we've identified, we are seeing to finalize those processes by October to see us finalize a PFMA application that would then take us forward in terms of the sale of the properties. I think this slide just summarizes the activities that we have in terms of our presence in the international market, our presence locally, the extensive engagements that we've had with support from DPE and specifically from the Deputy Minister, where we have visited Brazil, which is one of the countries that there's a requirement for some of the products that we have to position ourselves to be able to respond to their requirements. We've had extensive engagements with the different command councils of the services of our own defense force, the Air Force Command Council being one of those, to restore the missile capability that we've seen quite some progress in terms of activities resuming. We have also had quite extensive engagements with the defense intelligence in terms of some of their systems and how we get some of the Seeker capabilities. The Seeker 400 is an unmanned aerial vehicle, and how we get it to serviceability and how it gets to be redeployed. And we've seen good progress where we've been able to fly the system again after a while. And I think, Chair, without going into detail, we are extensively engaged with AMSCO as the procurement agent. Through those discussions with AMSCO, we are able to get some of the key contracts that we need as a business to get back into, to be recontracted to Denel as a base load that we will execute some of the key programs for our defense force, deliver equipment to our defense force, and continue to support the defense force. I think a key highlight that we are not mentioning here is the artillery systems, which is the big guns that Denel generally manufactures. We had quite a successful trial of the big artillery systems. This trial on the back of requirements that we have from around the world for these guns. We did a trial in the Northern Cape at Al Kampan, where we exceeded the world record in terms of how far this gun can fire with accuracy beyond 60 kilometers, and it was quite an achievement for the organization. It has sparked a lot of interest from the international world in terms of this big gun, which is quite in demand, especially now as the geopolitics of the world are changing. So I think it was quite a successful achievement by the organization because we were able to demonstrate the capability of this gun, we're able to also demonstrate the capability of our unmanned aerial vehicle systems, which can be deployed for various surveillance capabilities. So it was quite a feat. It was quite an achievement to have had this successful trial. I think just in summary, in terms of the partnerships and joint ventures, we are restoring the productive relationships that we've had. I've spoken about Hensoldt, the Rheinmetall Denel munitions business, basically to capitalize on their access to global markets and how we could, through these partnerships, look at technology development and access to new business. I mentioned the relationship that we have with the Edge Group, and we just recently had a board meeting just yesterday with Barrich Dynamics, where we own 49% of this company to normalize, to look at going into the future. What are the opportunities that we can explore jointly with them, particularly considering that the Edge Group plays a vital role within the UAE environment, which is a major buyer of defense equipment. And we are also looking at other partnerships, developing new partnerships rather, through Turkey, in terms of some of the products that we have and how we can, like the Rooivalk, and how we can reposition the Rooivalk into the future. I think on the back of the state visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia last year, we have revitalized our relationship with the Saudi Arabian military industries, as well as the different authorities for defense equipment procurement in the Kingdom of Saudi. We are making quite some progress. Some of the progress we are doing in partnership with AMSCO to position Denel as a capability and the rest of South African industry to access the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is a big procurer of defense equipment. So we are making significant progress in terms of laying the background for the opportunities, the export opportunities that we are pursuing. And I think there has been quite some progress in that regard. If we move on to the human resource side, I think just to summarize that, as at June, end of June, we were sitting at 1,650, just under 1,700 employees. We had, if you look to the top in terms of the exits, we have had 37 people that have unfortunately exited the organization as part of natural attrition. We have had employed additional 40 people. We have been employing contractors because of the restructuring process that we are under. From the month of October going forward, we are going to be going on a drive to populate our structures and appoint more permanent positions going into the future. But this slide just summarizes in terms of the demographics of the organization, where I think we will need to have a focus on in terms of employment equity, in terms of the employment of women in the organization, to get to the targets that we've set for ourselves going into the future. I think we have developed an FHR strategy with the focus on reframing
Yeah, you are cutting again now. You start cutting.
Now on the
Group CEO. Hello, Group CEO.
You're cutting, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, you are cutting.
But we'll end up losing them again.
Are you
Group,
almost at the end? Yeah.
and they can't even hear us now.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, they're gone. Let's hope they will be. Honorable members, let's again wait a bit. They will be reconnect.
Sorry about that,
Can you-
Chairman.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah, you come back.
Okay. We will flag the
Mike-
slides again.
Mike,
Yes, Chair. Can you hear us?
No, you are cutting regularly. Can you again just work with the streaming services to reconnect properly?
Okay.
Let me try and reconnect with a different device, Chair. Apologies for this.
Okay.
Can you quickly finish, Mike? Though, are you not at the end now? Can we not just finish? Really,
Can you-
because
can-
this.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Continue.
Okay. I think I'll ask. We were just summarizing the HR strategy, and to ask Thandeka to just go through the finances.
Good morning, honorable members. I think before we get into the detail, just briefly, I think what you will see in terms of financial performance for the current financial year, you will see a slight slow progress in terms of execution, particularly on the revenue. And that's coming from a number of things, but predominantly due to the lack of maintenance in some of our entities. The startup has been slow as we deal with some of the operations and some of the equipment in that area. Secondly, whilst we see the order book, a set order book that we have, there has been a delay that in terms of securing some of the orders than what we had anticipated. Whilst saying that, though, I must also highlight that we had delayed in terms of finalizing or submitting financial statements for 2021 and 2022, which we have subsequently submitted to the AG for audit, and that is currently under audit, as well as submitted financial statements for 2023 on time, and those are also currently under audit as we speak. We expect that audit then to be finalized by November. In terms of then, if I move on to the slides in front of us, the order book for the current year that we expect to execute on is 1.9 billion, of which, as at end of June, half of that, just over half of that has been secured, and we expect to secure the rest later in the year. Execution in terms of revenue, as at the end of June, we had budgeted to be at 292. However, we've only delivered 173 million against that budget, which is in line with our performance of last year. However, there definitely needs to be improvement in the better half of the year in order to secure the 1.9 billion revenue which we have set ourselves up. If we move on to the next slide, in terms of the end performance of earnings before interest and tax, we had budgeted to be sitting at a loss at the end of June of 139. We see the actual is 172, which is as a result of the sales that we said we're behind against budget. But at the same time, in the costing side, we see an improvement in the cost of 74 million, although it doesn't come through at the end of the results, but it does come through in terms of the OPEX itself as we implement some of these turnaround strategy actions that we have spoken about. The reduction in the space optimization, and we starting to see some of the costs some of the costs coming through, as well as the consolidations in the shared services, especially in the people's elements. We start seeing the efficiencies coming through in the costs. I move quickly on to the next slide. As we indicated previously, the solvency position of the business is quite critical for sustainability moving forward, and I thought it was important to just highlight how has that been solved or resolved since 2019. We received a 1.8 billion in August 2019, which was utilized for the projects and to reduce the bonds. And then over the next 3 years, we received 3.8 billion from the shareholder, which dealt predominantly with the bonds that was increasing the liabilities in our balance sheet. And then lastly, we received the allocation of 3.4 billion, of which 1.8 we were able to pump into the business so that we can deal with some of our legacy creditors and stabilize the business. And therefore, what we then expect, in addition to the 3.4, is the unlocking of cash from the non-core assets. We've received the 992 million, close to 1 billion from the DMBT funds. And the future funding then will be the delta of the recap, as well as the sale of non-cores that we expect to occur still within this next financial year. This funding then will assist with the stabilizing and the growth phase coming up from 2024 onwards. The next slide really just highlights to the committee how we utilize the funds that we've received, particularly the 1.8 that, as well as the sale of non-core cash that we've received in the business to support the turnaround. In essence, we've pumped the funds into the critical funding required to stabilize the business. We've kept, obviously, the funds that deal with growth. That will be the second phase of the turnaround. And then we've dealt with the legacy obligations, whilst not in full, but a large bulk of that has gone to deal with the legacy obligations that the business had. The remainder of 2.3 billion will then deal with the growth phase, which will come through from the balance of the recap once it's received and once we've made the conditions, as well as the sale of the non-core. The next slide really just then talks to how we expect to utilize the cash and raise cash up until the end of the financial year, which really talks to the release coming through from the sale of the non-core that we have highlighted, as well as the recap that will be received as we deliver on those conditions, which is the sale of those non-core. We then, at the end of the financial year, will then have 1 billion remaining after the sale of non-core, as well as the release to then deal with the growth phase of the business. I think that's just in summary the finances as status.
And I think to conclude, the chair, the priority actions and the way forward for the entity would be to conclude on the restructuring that I've alluded to, so that we stabilize the organization, stabilize the leadership of the organization. The board is busy with the process of appointment of a Group Chief Executive Officer, as well as a Group Chief Financial Officer and a Chief Audit Executive to improve governance in the organization. And I think those are the key activities that are going to be focused on. As Thandeka said, we need to expedite the sale of the non-core assets that remain, because it's part of the funding plan for the organization, so that we realize the cash to be injected into the business as part of the turnaround plan. We continue to have a strong oversight by the board in terms of the utilization of the recapitalization funds, as well as the formation of a a monitoring committee, Denel Monitoring Committee, which meets on a monthly basis, which comprises of DPE, National Treasury, the Department of Defense, AMSCO, and Denel, which looks at the performance of Denel on a monthly basis, and discusses key issues and interventions that are required to take the organization forward. We will continue to expedite the rebuilding and the restoration of the capability through a focus on employee value proposition, acknowledging that we've lost some employees, to be able to attract the employees back into the organization and have a continued drive to realize an opportunity pipeline. We talk about a 30 billion opportunity pipeline, both local and export, which is a conservative view, to basically realize that and get orders out of that 30 billion opportunity pipeline. We through a combination of own and customer funding, we need to have a focus on R&D, because we need to be at the edge of technology in terms of some of the capabilities that we have. And we have a technology plan that talks to funding some of the immediate requirements to take the organization forward. I think additionally is as part of restoration is implementation of the CapEx plan, which acknowledges that there's been a backlog in maintenance of some of the key infrastructure over the years. And this CapEx plan focuses and prioritizes funds to enable us to get to the required efficiencies of the organization. And I think as part of, and this is what we do on a weekly basis, of operational excellence, improve collections from sale and reinvestment into the business. Chair, I will stop it here in terms of our presentation, and maybe ask my chairman the chairman of the board to summarize if she wants, and then we can take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Group CEO. I hope the chairperson is in a position to speak now clearly.
I am, Chairman, other than to say that there isn't much to summarize. I think the presentation is quite clear. I would rather just leave it to the members to deal with the matters.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members, that is the presentation from Denel. I think now is the time for us to engage with the presentation. As usually, I will take members, and all of our members will be in a position to participate. Let me start with the Honorable Kumede. Wemguni? Yes.
Am I audible?
You are audible, loud and clear.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to everyone on the platform, especially our DM, the members of the board, colleagues, and others that in fact have visited us to hear this presentation. And thank you very much for the presentation that you have given us. I must say from the beginning that in fact it is a clear presentation. It looks, it sounds implementable, not unless we are not willing to do our work. We may find it difficult to implement the program. As it looks, as you are presenting it, it becomes too clearer that yes, finally we may get somewhere, Chair. My only worry perhaps is Denel is lacks, in fact, I may call it, it's implementable strategy. I don't know what's wrong when it comes to the implementation side, as well as the financial management. I have a very serious, if I look at the situation, each time they give us the presentation, you develop hope, you leave the meeting a little bit dozed, hoping that finally challenges that we have will finally be resolved. For some reasons, they will just disappear and be quiet. I don't know how many times have we requested that we want to meet with Denel, but we could not get them. Perhaps this time around, we will finally be in a position to get them. That like the very last presentation that they gave us, it was the first time, according to the presentation, that we were introduced to those concepts of the stabilize, you sustain, and you grow. And we were happy that they will come back and give us perhaps the report back, though it has taken time, Chair. And this presentation around, in fact, it's upon the hands of the Denel to make sure that they do the presentation. Chair, let me say, it was going to be far much better if we were first given an opportunity that the outstanding financial reports were presented to us before we could consider the report of this nature. We want to see, because currently I've got a feeling that we need to have a financial report or financial reports that are indicating a kind of a little bit of a progress, to say things perhaps are lightening up, so that at the end of the day, we see change. For some that in fact have just joined Denel, we have never enjoyed life with Denel. Ever since we came here, things have just been negative. We could not have meetings. Yes, you remember that Denel is one of those entities that in fact are affected by the state capture. And it is my belief, I want to say this thing, Chair, again, that the more Denel experiences challenges, is the more we expect them to be closer to us, so that together we share all these perhaps challenges or difficulties that they are in fact experiencing. Denel is to fill in some of the critical posts, so that the performance is improved and create a performance-driven organization. I think, yes, I've seen there that in the presentation that they've started identifying some of the critical posts that in fact they are to fill in. If one takes a little bit of a snapshot and you look at the SWOT of Denel, you will find that externally, the current situation of the structure, the business model remains a kind of a loss-making structure, which I hope that in fact we will change this as we go around. Externally, the environment is very fertile, Chair. Whilst the internal, it bears those challenges. The only thing that we need to do is to begin to consolidate the situation. Let's make sure that all these things put together, they are in a position to show us the way forward. The 3.4 billion, that is the recapitalization by Treasury. Though it came with the conditions, I'm happy that conditions has been relaxed. You have been given that 1.8, which is 55%. That helps you to take you closer, according to your strategy, that the stabilizing, the sustenance, it takes you to that point where you will, in fact, get to a situation where you begin to grow. Your report says you in between the sustenance, between the stabilization and sustenance, you need something like 12 billion, as well as you'll need when you are at perhaps the growing stage, you will need something like 30 billion, which in fact it says the amount that the Treasury has given you will help you to complete the exercise. As well as, Chair, I've seen in the presentation that they are giving us a program that says by July 2024, the roadmap rather would have been accomplished. As much as I do have a little bit of a challenge, dependent on when perhaps the elections are, but here, Chair, I wish to propose that somewhere or before we go for a break this year, we must have been given a report that takes us as a report back as to how far, in terms of this report they have given us, how far they have gone. And somewhere when we come back, end of Feb, because we are coming back in February, end of Feb, again, we look at that, as well as somewhere in May, if we'll still be around, yes, those 3 meetings, but we will bless that chair as well with the oversight visit. So we look at what exactly, is there any correlation from what they are saying and what is being implemented on the ground. Chair, one other factor that in fact has been given to us, I've seen if you calculate, you have 70%, rather you have 70 million that you will in fact recap in terms of, I'm not quite too sure, in terms of rentals or selling. I'll be very much interested when we talk about the selling, little bit accept the rentals. We still look at Denel to grow further in terms of our timing and the strategic moving forward. Are we saying, are we no longer going to need that land? As much as we have downsized the organization, but Denel as Denel will be Denel when all other activities we have been conducting as Denel, all of them, we in fact come back and do them. The chair, out of, if you look at all these, it will be important for Denel to revisit the situation where the cooperation, the memorandum of cooperation between Department of Defense as well as AMCO, is in fact revisited. The finalization of outstanding matters with the employees, as much as yes, we give it thumbs up that we've settled the employees, but there were matters that were in fact outstanding, which in fact is to be addressed, and we fill in all the critical posts. We relook at the order books, because I'm not sure the figures that are quoted in terms of the order books, are they still the same? It will be important that at least we genuinely get where do we stand in terms of the order book. What is the current value? Chair, yes, local is very much lagging, but it will be good that as Denel we stretch out our wings, go outside the country, for instance in Africa, go beyond DOD as well as AMSCO. We need to diversify. I think, Chair, that is your interest. I remember we were talking here that let's relook at the ambulances. It will be good that at one stage, as Denel, we produce our own vehicles, which in fact will be a commended gesture as this committee. And we need to avoid unnecessary deferments, because when we defer things, we don't get them going. We all understand that Denel lost very critical skills. We just need a way of bringing back those critical skills. In fact, we may want to know what strategy do we have to recruit back the skills that we lost. Chair, you know, I'm just coining something here. I'm very much interested to coin things that I hope they do fit. I want us to Uberize Denel. What I'm saying by Uberizing it is, if you hire Uber, they'll get you where you are. Wherever you go, if you say, I'm somewhere, they will come to you. So the customers and clients are waiting for us. I know when we're serious, no one can touch us. Let us do the pickups. We will, in fact, resuscitate and have Denel back, Chair, and work as Denel. Thank you very much, Chair, for your time. That was a good report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Gumede. Now it's Honorable Katalia.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the bold facts are that orders are down, revenue is down, skills are down. We're told that solvency is up. I'd like to gain an understanding exactly of what constitutes that uptick in solvency. But those are the facts. Secondly, there are a number of wishes, and you find those wishes in the strategic framework to fix what is an organization which has failed. What it wants to do is to right size, in the words of the CEO, to right size the revenue base, which is to right size to the revenue base, which is decreasing. How does this hold? The key question is, has anyone ever shrunk to greatness? In view of this, where is the funding going to come from, given the decline in revenue? We have some monies coming in projected from property sales, and property sales don't always deliver what they are supposed to, given a fire sale. And we have a tranche 2 of government funding of 1.6 billion. This is to retain and grow various entities. Now, how does this stack up to the total funds needed? There is a big gap. Never mind the gap, what is required to deliver on the 30 billion rand opportunity pipeline. We need detailed funding requirements and potential sources for the C30, Oryx, Rooivalk, Hoofhuister, and G5 and G6 plans, which we have been presented with. I have to say that strategic relationships are not particularly new and haven't delivered cross-funding in the past, and nor should they. I'd like answers to these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kachalia. Now is Honorable Mhlongo.
I've got just a few questions. The first one, I want to understand what is the rationale behind the gender employment rate, as we have seen from the presentation that they only have 27.1% women who are employed by Denel, when at the helm of Denel is a woman, a black woman. How does she feel about the fact that more than 72% of the staff personnel is males? And we want to know, out of all the staff members of Denel, how many of them are youth? And does Denel have perhaps have internships or learnerships to train new recruits in the job to help curb unemployment in the country? And then what's the reason behind the number of low employers over the years? As we have seen from the presentation, that at some time there were over 5,000 or 5,000 employees, and now they're at 1.6 employees. Why do people keep exiting, and what are they doing to attract the right skills and keep people with the special skills that they need in Denel? And when they were offering the severance packages in 2021, what was the strategy employed to keep skilled employees and avoid them taking those voluntary severance packages and keeping them with Denel? Now, what are the implications of the operating budget being below with 24 million on your operations at Denel? How has it affected? I just saw it was highlighted, but you have not expanded on how it has affected your operations and what is the strategy going forward. Because we've seen that National Treasurer once has implemented, in fact, there's a letter from National Treasury or a memo that says that new employees in the departments, they must freeze, all departments must freeze post and not hire any new employees with effect from 15 September. So when you want to recruit the shortage of skills that you are talking about, how are you going to do that in line with the this letter from National Treasury that was issued recently. Now, the next question, the issue of Section 189 process, the restructuring. How many employees will lose their jobs with this restructuring? And how many personnel ideally you want to have at the end of this restructuring we're talking about? And out of the people you are envisaging to lose their jobs, how many of them are the skilled, have the right skills that Denel needs, and you are planning to lay them off? Then the other issue is, okay, I think the issue of staff, I've mentioned it, that maybe the last issue on that issue of staff is that how does the board feel about having a staff complement that does not represent the demographics of South Africa? And then on the 3rd of September this year, we have marked 5 years since the 8 people that were killed in a blast at RDM factory in Somerset West in 2018. And then in May 2021, the Department of Employment and Labor launched an investigation into the blast, which found that several occupational health and safety contraventions were in place. What is Denel doing to ensure such painful tragedies never, ever, ever happen again? Because until this day, the families are crying. They've been up in arms trying to find justice, trying to find somebody to hold accountable. And we know that the NPA refused to prosecute on this matter. But what is Denel itself doing to ensure that such incidents, tragic incidents, never happen again? The next issue is that on 6 June 2023, the board failed to appear before SCOPA to brief them on the non-tabling of its annual report and its liquidity crisis. Here we are today. Denel is here. On all your presentations, we don't see you presenting to us or briefing us on why there's non-tabling of your annual report and what is the status of your finances in detail. So it's a bit worrying for us. It leaves us with questions. We don't know if we must raise questions. The questions on that will be based on what? Because we don't have the report before us on the finances and the liquidity of the business and the annual report. So if we were to raise questions, I'm not sure it will be based on what, because we don't have the that part of the report before us. Now, the issue of restructuring space and optimization of space. You say that people, the Benoni campus will be relocating, come to Littleton in Centurion. How far are you with that process? And these properties that you want to sell in order to inject some sort of have some revenue, is it not more profitable to lease those properties over a sale? Because a sale transaction, it's a once-off money that you receive, you sell it once, and then you lose assets that belong to the state. As the EFF were really opposed to having properties of the state, especially immovable properties of the state, being sold off into the private hands. We really want to tell the board that can they keep these properties and check other avenues of leasing these properties in order to generate. You know, when you lease a property for 25 years, you know that you are guaranteed an income of 25 years over a sale. Because we really don't believe that selling of state-owned fixed properties is the way good to go, as we believe that all land of South Africa must be expropriated without compensation and be in the hands of the state for the benefit of all. And then the issue of gear ratio business that is going to be sold, that was almost sold if the sale didn't fall off. This business that you want of gear ratio to be sold, and you're saying you're going back to the market to sell this business, do you have no need of it? Are you not going to then sell this business and come back and want to contract the new private business or the private owners of this business, and then you'll be going to them to service those trucks that were produced by or were made by gear ratio business. What is the plan behind that? Once you sell it off, what's going to happen to the assets that are currently there in the military or in defense? Who's going to service them? What's going to happen? Like, I really don't understand why we'll sell some assets or some of the business models that you have. What is the long plan on it? And then the evaluations that were done on these properties, what informed the decision to sell this property instead of ratio? Or sorry, I've asked this question already. And the issue of payments, of salary payments to staff or lack thereof in Denel is an old issue. Started a long time ago in 2019, I think. I want to understand something. When the employees are not paid their salaries, does the board members get their salaries? And what informs the decision, or who chooses which employees to pay and which ones not to pay? Or we just decide that, no, we're seniors, we're the board, we must get our salary, and the junior workers, the people who put in a lot of work, must not get their salary? Who decides on who gets paid and who must not paid in a specific month when we have no funds to pay the salaries? I want to understand what informs that decision when salaries of employees are not paid. How to arrive at that decision on who chooses which ones you pay and which one you not pay, and who decides that, no, the board owner must be paid and the employees must not be paid? I want to understand that. Please make me understand the rationale behind all of that. Yeah, Chair, the last issue, man, I wanted to read this letter from a National Treasury, so that they tell me how they are going to get new skills when there's this directive from National Treasury on the implementation of it says medium-term budget policy statement. In the meantime, heads of national departments should implement the following cost-containing measures. Freeze the hiring of new employees. How are we going to get new skills, or the shortage of skills that they've highlighted here, when there's this memorandum from National Treasury? How is Denel going to resolve this issue? Because as far as we're concerned, as the EFF, this is a declaration of employment shedding. We thought load shedding, then there was water shedding, now we're on employment shedding in government. What is the strategy? How are they going to get new employees on board with this memorandum from National Treasury? Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm done.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I'm still audible.
Honorable Piri.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning to you. Still morning. Yeah, still morning. Good morning to colleagues and the delegation of Denel, led by the chair of the board. Chair, I don't have much, but allow me just to echo and also question one that already my colleagues have just asked. One thing that I'm interested in is that the positive thing that has moved me is that with Denel, it's coming back, it's doing the Denel turnaround strategy. I want to understand, because in terms of your strategy, one, you are going to reopen, or you are going to start afresh the I lost the word, but let me quickly go through my notes. As you is it, I want the college of skills. You know, as a young person, even though I've turned, I'm more than 35, but I believe I'm still young because I'm below 40. Chair, I'm very much interested with the Denel Technical Academy, which is being reorganized, and that will strengthen the entity's critical skill sets.
Chair, on that basis, I want to understand if they are going to reopen it. Some time back, or when we started with the portfolio, we raised a number of issues of sharing skills. Denel Academy can also assist itself, Denel as an entity, and also assist your SAA, and also can still assist ESCOM. So I want to check with the management and the board. I believe it's still the board that we started with. To have a plan in place that will also assist other entities that are belonging to public enterprises, which is your SEOs, that we feel it will not be foreign, or it will not be a taboo to assist each other in terms of your skills. We have observed and we are aware that Denel Academy can assist other entities, but on that one, I wanted to check with them. Have you already started to advertise or allow applications for students to be part of that academy? And if so, what is the criteria so that everybody must be in a position to apply, be it your employees internally and externally? I'm interested in that because it's going to assist indeed the turnaround strategy. And as well, Denel, it has its second tranche of 3.4 billion budget recapitalization, and is a subject to conditions of restructure and exit. The legal information is disclosed on the nature of the condition of restructure and its exit. Considering this, what are the conditions of the restructure and exit that Denel is required to meet in order to get access to the second tranche of the budget recapitalization? And also, Chair, when does Denel envisage that it will meet those conditions? Lastly, I think one of my colleagues has raised that, but I want to re-emphasize, Chair, in terms of the representation of SCOPA on the 14th of June, 2023. Denel stated that it was expected to fill the GCE or the GCFO positions by October. And can we be given an update on that if they've already filled the vacancies? It has been a thorny issue backwards in terms of the voluntarily severance packages of the employees, considering that the restructured Denel envisaged staff headcount is approximately 1.306 employees, and yet the entity currently headcount is around 1.659, which is 21% higher than the estimated level. What other measures, aside from the voluntary severance packages and natural attrition, has been Denel instituted to reduce its headcount so that it can desire its level? Thanks, Chair.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Pierre. Honorable Buthelezi, I haven't seen him. I suspect he is not here. Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Dlamini.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, colleagues and the department. I think I have just two comments or issues that I want to focus on. One, looking at the history in terms of how Denel got to this position where it needed to turn itself around. I haven't heard anything in presentation that talks to what sort of measures are in place to ensure that IPPs are not stolen or sold in an underhanded way. This I'm asking because the presentation is making reference to partnerships with companies in UAE and so forth. And you remember, one of the IPPs that got stolen was sold in that region in that region of the globe. And subsequently, the people that were involved in that theft were hired by these companies that came under the guise of partnering with Denel. Well, what sort of measures do we have in place to ensure that such things don't happen again? This is going to be important to have in place, because if you want to turn around things, you need to avoid previous mistakes and ensure that they don't happen again. Maybe the representatives of Denel should also share with us in terms of the what happened at Denel Vehicle Systems and the case that is being handled by the investigation by the SIU in terms of that, of that thing, and how far is the process? Is there anyone getting prosecuted, or that thing is dead under the wood? I don't know. Maybe we need to get that kind of reassurance, because you don't want to find a situation where you turn things around and you still have loopholes, and you'll have Denel finding itself in the same position because of these loopholes that are not being addressed. I will stop there, Chair. Thanks. Okay, before I stop, the turnaround strategy that has been presented, I missed the part about their supplier development program. Do they have such? If they do, how does it work? Yeah, let me stop there, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Dlamini. Honorable Isaac.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, colleagues on the meeting. Chairperson, I'll be brief. Lots has been said. Yeah, Chairperson, my understanding is that obviously Denel's new operating model is restructuring and optimizing its cost structure. And of course, Denel's plan is to reduce from the 6 core business units to 4, as was alluded to in the presentation. Yeah, it sounds like a good story to tell. But of course, the issue that has already come up with other colleagues is the issue of accelerating its disposal of non-core assets and certain businesses. Now, there seems to be a huge emphasis placed on this, in my opinion, in a very tough market. So the question arises, has due diligence been done in terms of values and current returns on these disposals? Because it might be one thing to improve the cash flow and liquidity, and then on the flip side of the coin, one doesn't want to just give these things away due to tough market conditions, as my colleague alluded to, in terms of having these fire sales. So yeah, Chairperson, Denel has had persistent liquidity challenges. And obviously, we saw that the revenue decreased from some 2.8 billion in 2020-21 to some 1.5 billion in 21-22. So obviously, the call for the restructuring, but it is a fact that there has been a major lack of productivity at Denel. So the question that came up earlier, and I'll reiterate, is that we are bleeding in terms of losing quality employees with critical skills. Now, there is a plan to attract critical skills, but one must be very honest that with the circumstances and the reputation that Denel is currently enjoying, we're bleeding critical skills. It's one thing to employ individuals. It's the flip side of it is to obviously employ people with the critical skills that are capable to do the job in terms of being able to deliver. The chairperson, I would just move on to last two comments. The allocation of the some 3.2 billion, of which already there has been access to, I think, 1.8 billion, is it? Has the creditors now been settled? And in terms of Denel's reputation, are these monies being appropriated correctly? And then finally, Chairperson, I want to just ask if I could get an explanation on slide 21, which I did not seem to comprehend very correctly at the bottom on slide 21, where there's a comment, guided weapons, and then it goes on to say 100 million rand to go on Kamas due to penalties if no CVO agreed. If I could just get a brief explanation in simple language, what is being implied there? Thank you for that, Chairperson. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, thank you, Honorable Isaac. Honorable Malinga. Honorable Malinga, are you here? Or are you gone? Okay. Apparently Malinga is no longer here. Honorable Mkwanazi.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning to honorable members, colleagues, to the Deputy Minister leading the Denel team. Honorable Chair, I've been largely covered by Honorable Kumete, but I want to make a follow-up on what Comrade Kumete said, Honorable Kumete said on the turnaround strategy, especially to the Minister, to the DPE, as they are responsible for the oversight of the Denel, and to the board to say, do they have a plan to monitor the implementation of the turnaround strategy and to make sure that the turnaround strategy is met within the timelines? I think Honorable Carol Piri touched on the issue of the appointments that has to be done by October. So if they can talk to that, to the plan to monitor the turnaround strategy. Secondly, Chair, in slide 9, they indicated the completion of Section 189 of the Labour Relations Act process that was scheduled for the 5th of September 2023. If they can talk to the delays, if there are any, and the stabilization and the sustainability of the process in talking to the growth as outlined in the strategic plan. Other than that, Honorable Chairperson, I've been largely covered. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mkwanazi. I did send a text to Disang to remove you because I see you said there, please identify yourself. This is a name of yours there. And I want to appeal to the members to keep on locking in their name so that we can be in a position to understand who is in the meeting. It should be, I don't know why Dzang could not execute those instructions. Honorable member.
My apologies, Chairperson. My gadgets gave me some problems. I had to switch onto the phone, but I will do as you said. I'm so sorry.
Okay. I think also, having listened carefully to the presentation, that there is a lot of progress in relation to what we have been suggesting to Denel and the progress so far. I think it's a positive report that it should be appreciated. However, because Denel started talking about engaging the SANDF, because the SANDF could assist a lot if we can create that relationship with them that seek to understand that this entity is there to solve a lot of their problems also. And it will be a win-win kind of a process if we can have such kind of. Last time we visited Denel, we were experiencing, we came there with serious problems that talk to simple things like bullets, where some of the department of the same state were buying bullets somewhere else, but not in the state-owned entity. And that was our problem. And it means that our own entities are also contributing in killing this crucial state-owned entity. And it's something that cannot be forgiven, even by the generations to come, if we continue allowing that to happen. Therefore, the sooner we have that, we cannot talk about the public-private partnership while we cannot master the basic relationship, which is public-to-public relationship. Therefore, we are happy that there are those languages started to emerge in Denel, but we want them to be fast-tracked so that they can produce positive results. Secondly, we remember that Denel during COVID produced ventilators to assist the shortage in the country. Our question, I think, which we were raising previously, even before that, was this problem, the problem of diversification, the issue of to what extent that the process of producing ventilators lead to another diversification of producing other things that could be necessary in improving the quality life of our people. That was a very strategic intervention that Denel did during the COVID. Can we also be informed as to where we are in terms of diversifying that business? Another issue, which is to me, we must be like a broken record to continuously raising with Denel. Why are you not assisting the state to produce police vans, ambulances, if indeed we want to build a developmental state? I think we saw the capacity of Denel. We visited. Denel is one of the entities that is having a very good infrastructure which can assist this country to improve, a lot of our problems. We have a shortages of police vans every time, you go, because they have to be ordered from Toyota, they have to be ordered from BMW, etc. Leaving an infrastructure in Denel that could be utilized to produce those police vans to sort of deal with the crime that is killing our country. Also, in the health department, we need that help there. In fact, the problem that we have witnessed from treasury that are raising currently could be resolved by these issues if they are being dealt head on. That's why it is the Denel executive and the board that will put pressure on the state to utilize Denel and incapacitate Denel further in order to be able to improve the situation. It will be really embarrassing as a country if Denel collapses, while there is a lot we can do to improve the situation there with the infrastructure that we have already said there, that we got there. Even it was there pre-1994 and still there, and we need to use that infrastructure. That's my plea, Group CEO and the chairperson. But on other issues, I think that has been raised by members. I think the problem that I don't have powers to deal with as a chairperson is parties changing people, not keeping them on the same wavelength in terms of at least being in a position to understand the meeting we had previously with the meeting we have currently, or the meetings we have been having since 2019 when we got in here, because we have been getting reports of Denel, and there's a lot of things that perhaps can help honorable members to be able to link with what we got the previous meeting to this meeting. Some of the questions we are raising here, they sort of lacking that interrelationship between what we had in the past and present. And on that one, I cannot resolve it where I am standing. Please take your platform. I don't know who's going to start, whether we're going to start with the minister or perhaps the chairperson, but I give over to Denel and its leadership to respond to all these questions raised by the members. Thank you. Group CEO, if they are not, it means that they are saying start, they will come at the end.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the honourable members for the questions and the comments and the acknowledgement of progress thus far. I will start supported by the Group CFO. And then maybe my chair will add where we may have missed something. But if we start with the Honorable Sibusiso Gumede, I think that there was a comment that we have, and maybe DPE will also comment, but that we have, and we will continue to make ourselves available to present to the committee and to Parliament, because we understand the importance of that in terms of public reporting. It's a responsibility that we have. I think I picked up a lot of comments. Rather than questions, I will deal with the questions. Maybe the first one talks to the Fs, the annual financial statements for 2020-21, 2021-22, and the financial year that we've just come out of 2022-23. and maybe ask Thandeka just to give an update on where we are with that process, and what the next steps are, especially from a PFMA point of view.
Right. In terms of the 2021 and 2022 Fs, as the members are aware, those have been long outstanding. We have subsequently submitted those financial statements to the Auditor General for audit, which is currently underway. For the 2023 financial year, we've also at the end of May submitted those financial statements for audit. However, given that the Auditor General is in effect running 3 years audit at the moment, the finalization of both the 2023 and the outstanding Fs is delayed. We expect that the audit will be finalized at the end of November for all 3 years. And thereafter, we'll then be in a position to submit audited financial statements as well as the annual reports for those years.
Okay, thank you. I think in our turnaround slide that talks to the stabilize, sustain, and grow, we make mention of the July 2024 date, and that's where we foresee securing new orders. There's a request for us to report back on progress before recess of Parliament, and I think we will report on that progress through the Department of Public Enterprises. We would welcome the oversight visit because it is through the oversight visit that we can showcase some of how we've implemented very visibly to showcase that in terms of the activities to the honorable members. There was a question around the sale of properties vis-a-vis rentals, as well as if Denel would not need some of those properties going forward as it goes into the growth phase. I think to respond to say the property that are targeted for sale predominantly relates to where Denel has not been actively utilizing the properties. If I use Rheinmetall Denel Munitions, the property that Rheinmetall Denel Munitions operates out of, it's a property that we own the property, but that business since the middle of the 2000s, Denel has not used it, but it has rather been utilized by RDM. So Denel will not have a need for them. And Denel will continue to own 49% of RDM. So we'll own 49% of that asset. So it is being sold. It will not be required. It is more required by the associate company RDM. I think similarly with Hensoldt Optronics, where we own 30%, since inception of that organization as well, they have been operating on that. They have been operating on that property, and it is one of the properties targeted for sale. They have requested to extend their operations, and where they are extending, they will rent. It is not that part of the property will not be sold, but would rather be rented from us. So it will remain as a possibility should we expand our activities going into the future, that we will be able to exercise our rights in terms of some of the lease agreements that we would have had to get back the property. So as a general principle, those were the properties that were targeted. The Benoni property that we've identified, there is sufficient space within the Littleton, between the Littleton campus and the Pretoria West campus, that we would be able to accommodate that. And I think the decision, the lease or sell decision was predominantly driven by a requirement for Denel to identify activities to bring cash in to assist with the turnaround plan, and hence the decision for sale of the properties to realize that injection at a point in time. So it was primarily driven by the need to supplement what the government would recapitalize us with disposing of assets that we deemed not core to the business. I think in terms of, there was a question around the employee issues. We have addressed the issues around employees, which were predominantly the payment of salaries. There was a backlog of salaries as at July last year, which we were able to pay with the medical benefit trust money. What we could not settle was the other outstanding pension fund contributions, where we went into a payment plan to pay some of the contributions, and were ultimately able to pay whatever backlog in terms of pension contribution with some of the recap money that we received from National Treasury at the end of March. So we would have caught up in terms of payment of pension contributions for employees, as well as the interest that would have accrued. That was a backlog. So we have to date are up to date in terms of obligations that relate to the employee salary. There was a question around the order book, where we indicate around 2016, where the order book was 23 billion, and that by end of by 2023, the order book had reduced to 8.4 billion. I think to comment that this is a multi-year; these are multi-year orders that get executed over time. Part of our planning, especially in the growth phase, is to work on those opportunities that would grow this order book from the current 8 billion to a sustainable order book that would sustain the business moving forward. I don't know, Thandeka, if there's anything else to add there.
Nothing.
The focus, there is a focus on export sales to diversify, so that we are not solely dependent on our own DoD budget, but rather we have other revenue streams that come into the business from export. I think going forward, it's also to focus it on the continent where there are opportunities, to capitalize on those opportunities and convert those to orders. We have had previous success in some countries on the continent, especially Sub-Saharan Africa. We do still have, especially in North Africa, we do still have some customers. It is to capitalize on those relationships as well, in terms of growing the order book going forward. I think Honorable Kachalia had a question around everything having going down, but solvency going up, and maybe for Thandeka just to give an overview of those trends.
Just on slide 6, we mentioned the solvency. Solvency is an indication of where your balance sheet, your liabilities are greater than your assets. So you've been solvent if that is the case. And we indicated there for the 3 years, 2019, 2021, and 2022, that we're insolvent, but we see the improvement in 2022 and 2023. The improvement that we see in 2022 comes as a result of the repayment of the bonds with the assistance of National Treasury. So as a result, then our liabilities have reduced whilst our equity improved through that equity injection. And then in 2023, we see a solvent position of 3 billion, and that again came as a result of the recap that we received at the end of March 2023 of 3.4 billion.
Thank you. And I think the other question was in terms of right sizing and if we are not shrinking ourselves to greatness. I think we're guided by the revenue base vis-a-vis the cost base. Also looking at the skills mix, where when we lost a lot of skills, we're losing a lot of the technical engineering skills, and we remained with less of the technical engineering skills and more of the support skills. And the orders that we could execute and the cost base that we had were not matched. The cost base was too high, and we needed to right size that cost base to the level of revenue. Appreciating that we came from a revenue base of around 8-9 billion back in 2016 to a revenue base of 1.4 billion that we closed the previous financial year on. And the cost base was skewed and a bit on the high side, which is why we needed to right size. With the restructuring, we are getting the skills mix correct so that we have the right technical engineering skills to execute on the work that we do with the correct support structures to be able to support those activities with an opportunity to grow. We are sizing it to the revenue of today. As we get new orders and new contracts, we will be able to employ more people because we can justify that cost because of the orders that we would have received. There's an opportunity pipeline of 30 billion rands. We have come down to 30 billion rands on the back of what is real opportunities based on that matches our portfolio of products and capabilities, and that we are able to respond to the RFPs as we receive them from whether it's from local or external clients outside of South Africa. And that 30 billion is real. It's based on what we know of the requirements, based on the intelligence that we have of the market. That is how we've arrived at that. I think these are opportunities that, again, I'm emphasizing that they are real. If we look at artillery systems, the big guns that I spoke about earlier, if we look at the surface missiles, the surface target missiles, the Umkhonto missile that we have, which is sought after across the world, the big artillery system that is sought out after the current Seeker 400 unmanned aerial vehicle that we have sold previously. There's a requirement for that. All of that talks to the 30 billion of opportunities that we talk about. The work that we have to do is to capture and be successful in the capturing of those opportunities, which is why in instances where it's required, we solicit the support of DPE or the Deputy Minister to assist us with that. Honorable Mhlongo raised the issues around the staff demographics, the female employment, and the percentages that we are reporting on. I think we do acknowledge that, yes, the actual target, the actuals are actually low. It is an indication of the attrition that we have had in the organization, where we may have a few years ago we're getting close to meeting the targets. That progress was eroded with the skills that have left the organization, which is both male and female. That is a challenge that we've put to ourselves to set new targets and to meet those targets as we employ people to come into the organization, to lean towards the employment of female to ensure that we meet the targets. We are not reflecting the youth. I think it's something that we can report on in a written response, that we will reflect the percentage of young people in the organization, and also to mention that we have also lost young people in the organization with the attrition rate, the high attrition rates that we have had in the past. The previous voluntary severance packages, as a way of ensuring that we protect the skills of the required skills for the organization, we go through a rigorous process that ensures that as we approve the voluntary severance packages, we are not approving skills and people that the organization needs to execute orders. We are rather approving skills or people that their functions may have become redundant for various reasons. So we have quite a rigorous process to ensure that we don't lose the skills that are required by the business. I think Honorable Mhlongo also raised the issue of the Treasury Directive and the freezing of positions. I think our approach to it is that because we are a Schedule 2 PFMA entity, which is commercially driven, we get the contracts, and as we get the contracts, we are then able to justify employment of additional people. And we would go through the governance structures that are there in the company at a group exco level, as well as at committee levels and board committee and board, to make sure that we are not inflating the cost base of the organization. So there are quite rigorous processes to ensure that. We had gone through a voluntary freezing of posts where we were only employing on a contract basis because of the restructuring effort that we were in. We could only employ contracted people. We had frozen employment of permanent people. But as we conclude the restructuring process, we will unfreeze that. We will only employ where we have the contracts that we need to execute, and we have a shortage of people to execute on those contracts. We will then bring in the required people. I think since we started the restructuring process in September last year, we have had natural attrition, people that have left the organization. Naturally, 184 people that have left, and we've subsequently had voluntary severance package of approved voluntary severance packages of 159, which is why we are now saying that we are at a point where we believe we have met the target in terms of the cost reduction target in terms of the salary bill of the organization, and that we can now proceed to move into the new operating model of the company. So those are the employees that we would have lost since the beginning of September last year to date. Is the 159 plus the 184. Now, if we look at the staff, the headcount or staff complement required, we have said that we need around 1,400 people of permanent employees. You will see in our report of June, as at end of June 2023, we are reporting that 1,659 is the headcount that we have. Within that 1,659 is contractors that we have. So part of our process is going to be to stabilize that and to make sure that we get to that 1,400 plus target that we have with the right skills mix. And some of the contractors are fixed term. The contracts will come to an end and will not require to be renewed going forward. I think Thandeka has reflected on the annual financial statements and what was presented also to SCOPA and what the next steps are going to be. I have spoken to the relocation of Benoni campus to Littleton. the rationale for selling the Benoni campus, and that we will not need the facility going forward because we have sufficient space to where we are relocating the skills to. I think there was a question around the Rheinmetall Denel munitions and the explosion, and what the next steps are. Rheinmetall Denel munitions is a separate legal entity that is managed by the majority shareholder being Rheinmetall. We sit on that board of directors representing our shareholding. And we sit in the different committees, and I think through one of the committees, the strengthening of, or rather a reflection on the cause of the explosion and the measures to ensure that there isn't a recurrence was tabled at those committees, and there would be oversight. Through the different board committees, as well as through inspections, random or planned inspections from the Department of Labor. What we know is that the management of RDM continues to engage with the communities, and especially the families that were unfortunately lost their members through that explosion. Honorable Piri raised the issue of the Denel Technical Academy and the skill sharing. I think to comment to say that we through a process that is led by DPE, we have been engaging with the other state entities to look at where there are common skills that could be shared, where there are common services and common products that could be shared. And we have, since the institution of those forums, we have been able to significantly move in terms of supporting each other, because it's two-way. It's in some instances it's Denel and Eskom sitting and identifying areas of support where Denel could assist and support Eskom, or it could be the other way around. So there is progress in that regard. And I think it is where we are saying that we've also identified opportunities to help Denel diversify. We spoke about in the presentation the civil security, where we could expand to with the skills that we have to integrate civil security solutions to help with the surveillance of key infrastructure in the country. And it will be an ongoing effort that is led by the DPE. We are repositioning the Denel Technical Academy, also looking at opportunities broadly within government. Just last week, with the Gauteng provincial government, we were launching the Gauteng provincial government's initiative around skills in the solar PV, solar photovoltaics, for the solar panels, and to train electricians specifically for installation of that. So there's a number of opportunities that we've identified to refocus the Denel Technical Academy to start to play that role, and to also partner with some of the TVET colleges in the region, in the Ekurhuleni region, because the academy is currently located geographically in Ekurhuleni. To partner with some of those TVET colleges in terms of upskilling and training of young people. When we had, and these are the things that we will go back to, when we used to recruit apprentices to train them and take them through apprenticeship, we would have a national drive where we open this to the youth right across the country, using different media to attract them and to make visible the program, making visible the entry requirements, and in some instances even having targeted interventions to the different high schools, especially where Denel was active in Gauteng, in the Western Cape, to primarily attract young people. I think as we reposition the Technical Academy, we will be going back to these initiatives that worked in the past, to ensure that we make visible what the entry requirements are, and that we attract as wide a pool of young people as possible to train at the Technical Academy. I think the question around the appointment of the group CEO and the group CFO, I will leave to the chairperson the chair is struggling, but to comment that there is a process underway that is looking at the appointment of the group CEO and the group CFO. And maybe what we can do is do a written response to that specific question, so that we adequately address it. The Honorable Dlamini raised the issues around supplier development program. We used to have quite an active supplier development program. I think with the challenges that the business has gone through, some of these programs we stopped. One of the things that we are doing going forward is to initiate some of these supplier development programs, because we understand the role that we play in the economy in terms of developing suppliers that are able to support us, particularly now with the business model that we have, where we are also saying we will not be doing everything internally to Denel. We will look at how local industry can support us, and part of that will include local supplier development, especially for the non-sensitive activities that we can outsource to local industry. So it will become a part of our drive going forward, as part of the triple BEE that we need to improve on going forward. The issue around IP governance and partnerships, I think we do definitely have lessons learned. I think it's about tighter control. It's about oversight, stricter oversight in terms of some of the contracts that we would have. It's about also working much closer with AMSCO, because there is joint ownership of the IP that we have with AMSCO. So there's already between ourselves and AMSCO, we formed the steering committee. Part of the activities of that steering committee is looking at an IP registry and how we're gonna utilize this IP and exploit this IP going forward, where Denel has exclusive right of exploitation, how that would be done, and how the governance around that would be improved to make sure that we don't have those lapses that we had in the past. Honorable Dlamini, I think it's the DVS matter. You mentioned the Denel vehicle systems matter with the SIU. Is being handled by the SIU, like a number of the cases that they have. Maybe what we can do is reach out to them to respond specifically around the issue of DBS and SIU as we do the written responses to the committee going forward. Honorable Isaac made comments around the new operating model, as well as the disposal of non-core assets, especially the due diligence around the disposal of non-core assets. What the board has done, what the Denel Board of Directors has done, to ensure that there is a value for the state, appointment of transaction advisors that would look at the market and ensure that we get best value for some of the assets that we've identified for disposal. And it is on the back of that there would be recommendations that would inform the PFMA Section 54 applications that we would then do to our shareholder. And in some instances, there would be also requirement for approval by the Department of Finance or National Treasury. So there is due diligence in terms of the disposal of these assets to ensure that the state gets a best value for money as we do this. Thandeka will provide clarity on the slide 21, Honorable Isaac, in terms of I think it related to some figures that we quoted there around CBOs and so forth. Also on the status of creditors, part of the recapitalization that we received, the 3.4 billion, there's line items that talk to creditors. We have made progress in terms of, especially with the 55% funds that were available to us. We have made progress in terms of payment of some of those legacy creditors. There is still outstanding creditors that we need to pay. We are talking to the creditors to work on payment plans where we need to work on payment plans or to pay off where the amounts are such that we can pay off. So it's an ongoing process, and we are looking forward to availability of the balance of the recap, because that would assist us a great deal in terms of the other the balance of the creditors that we still need to settle. Honorable Mkwanazi, there was a question around the monitoring of the turnaround plan. I think in our presentation we talk about a monthly monitoring committee, which is chaired by the DPE, which has National Treasury sit in, as well as the Department of Defense and AMSCO. AMSCO importantly because AMSCO also looks at how we are performing against the contracts that they have placed on us, particularly for our own department, our own defense force, is to ensure that we are maximizing getting revenues from those contracts, as well as also monitoring in terms of the things that we said we would do as part of the turnaround plan. So there is that committee that is set over and above our reporting to the board, which sometimes requires more frequency than just the quarterly reporting. So there is quite strong oversight in terms of the monitoring of the turnaround plan. And I think, Chairperson, you wrapped up with your acknowledgements on the turnaround plan. And I think the requirement for us to work much closer to our own defense force, and we can confirm that part of our engagements, especially since last year, around September, we have been working very closely with the leadership of our defense force, where we have even planned on having their own oversight visits to our facilities. We had the first of those at the end of, I think it was around April of this year. We are working on a second oversight visit. I think also for them to see for themselves progress that is being made in terms of implementation of the turnaround. Also appreciate where there are challenges and how we are responding to the challenges. And I think what's also come up very strongly from those engagements is the need for especially new developments of capabilities for us to work closely with our defense force, because it helps us as we sell these things in the export world, that our own defense force is utilizing the equipment that we especially the new equipment that we have developed. So we've agreed to a principle that we would work closely with them, especially with new developments, make sure that they are relevant for their environment and that they can use it. I think it's something that we will continue to do going forward to ensure that our products are operated by our own defense force first before we sell them externally. We have noted your comments or concerns around other organs of state that are procuring. If we look at PMP and ammunition, I think one of the things that we are driving closely with, especially with AMSCO, that we've also extended to other state entities where we've had engagements with the SAPS around their requirement for ammunition and other requirements that our portfolio matches their requirements, to see how that could be done going forward. I think there's some groundwork that has been done. Some of it also supported by DPE. I remember we had a session with the SAPS as well as the Border Management Authority to present the Denel capabilities that they buy local first within procurement laws and processes. So it's work that we will do. It will help us to diversify also away from the National Defence Force. You made mention of the ventilator, the developments around the ventilators with the beginning of COVID. We made some significant strides, but we ended up not proceeding with some of the programs that we had initiated. I think we had 3 ventilator programs, primarily driven by cost of by development, time to market for new product, and some of the qualification processes, which was processes that we were not familiar with. But I think what it did is it gave us an opportunity to look at other streams other than defense, which is why we are very strongly pushing with the strong defense capabilities that we have into the civil security space, offer security solutions for sister SOCs to surveil key infrastructure, as well as to also with sister SOCs to look at how we could adapt some of our manufacturing capabilities to their requirements. We've already, I think, between ESCOM and Transnet, that we are working closely to look at how we diversify from pure military into commercial applications. And I think we are making progress. As these things progress and as we report back to the committee, we will respond. We will provide the update. And then I think lastly but not least is the issue of the vehicles that you raised. I think we are able to support the requirements for specialized vehicles, especially for crowd control, protection for police officers and so forth. What we have not looked at is moving into the commercial vehicle space, because we believe it's a market that is saturated. But it does not mean that we will not continue to explore these opportunities, particularly where there is volume that would help us to sustain some of our capabilities. I think those are the questions that I picked up. I think where we may have missed in our response, we will go through the report of the committee meeting today and provide comprehensive responses via the Department of Public Enterprises. I'm going to ask Thandeka to just come in where I may have missed some of the specific finance items. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'll be brief. Honourable members, I think the question around page 21, the revenue slide talks to the revenue that was incurred year to date, as well as the revenue to be incurred by Denel, or the revenue for the full year, which is 1.9 billion. The comment around guided weapons just makes reference to that the guided weapons division has to still deliver 100 million revenue in order to meet its targets of the year. However, there are risks in terms of the Kamas contract due to penalties because that contract is delayed. However, we are in conversations with the contracting agency, which is AMSCO, in relation to waiving those penalties through a CBO, which in principle has already been agreed. I think that was the only outstanding thing. The matters in relating to creditors, I think Mike had already alluded to that we have not been able to deal with all of the creditors, or the ones that are remaining very constant engagement with them to table payment plans in line with when we expect the cash coming through, either through the operations themselves or through the recapitalization funds that we're expecting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Group CEO. Honorable members, that is the end of the response to our comments and the questions from Denel. From here, I would love to take this opportunity to thank, because I assume that both the chair and the deputy minister didn't have any issue to add, because I understand that they were supposed to have said something. I think they are fairly covered. I don't want to close them outside. Deputy Minister, am I correct?
You are correct, Chair. I think they've dealt with all the questions substantively. And ours is just really to assure the committee members that as the shareholder, we are definitely engaged with the management towards the board to ensure that indeed Denel is able to be supported where the support is indicated, particularly in the field of orders. And those discussions are ongoing. And then as soon as we have concluded, we might then indicate that type of work. But for now, I think all the questions raised, there was nothing towards the shareholder. And but we are very much sitting on Denel to ensure that it's back to productivity, and then also assisting as you raise some issues around the market in South Africa. The police, the correctional services, the Metro Police, now that is a new structure called the Metro Police, the ambulances, the fire engines, as you also said, that we need to look at that particular use. Police vans and them is going to be very, very difficult because there you are competing with the big brands, but combative vehicles, Yanyalas and what have you, I think that's the area that we are looking at, including the Metro, when they have to deal with public order policing matters. Those are the issues that we are also engaging, including the improvement on the production of the ammunitions at the PMT, where we are discussing, but the discussions are still unfolding at the point when we are able to report to the committee will do so, but just giving an assurance that the engagements are intensified and they are going on, and definitely we will really make sure that Denel recovers fully. Knowing and understanding that it's operating under a very competitive world, particularly in the international market, where the Europe countries are the best producers of whatever Denel is producing. Turkey has just come in into the fold. Israel is very aggressive in Africa. And so it's not an easy market. And once you do not produce, you do not get the orders. And then others overtake you. But we are also looking at that particular international market. So both the domestic and international, so that they can be on their feet, be self-sustaining, and long-term sustainability as the issues. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. On a lighter note, Deputy Minister, Denel can do better cars than those scooters from the Eastern Cape that were delivered during the
No
having
comment.
been exposed to their infrastructure, I think they can do better than those scooters. That is the end of our session with Denel, honorable members. I will plead for honorable members to remain on the platform while we release Denel. Thank you so much for your presentation, the way you responded comprehensively into our questions. What is left is still the fast tracking of execution. Thank you so much. Until we meet again, thank you, Group CEO and the chairperson of the board and the minister.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes,
Thank you to
you are relieved.
the committee. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Honorable members, we're supposed to go to the item on the presentation by the Secretary of the minutes. I think there are two sets of minutes that need to be dealt with now. Can we give Tisang to take us through?
Thank you, Chairperson. It's two sets of minutes. The minutes of the 30th of August is the department briefing us on the first quarter performance report and the unbundling of ESCOM. And basically, it's just the members who were present and the delegation that was led by the Deputy Minister and the acting DG. And opening remarks by the chairperson, a synopsis of the presentation, and then the issues that were raised in terms of the discussion that were raised by the members, the responses, and then a presentation on the Zondo Commission by the recommendations by the content advisor, and the resolution that the committee needs to have a physical meeting there where the content advisor will present that Zondo Commission recommendation implementation plan. Yeah, those are the meeting of the 30th of August, Chair.
Honorable members, is there any mover of those minutes?
I'll move for the adoption of these minutes.
Yes, sir.
Mkhwanazi, I second.
Yes, Mkhwanazi. Dlamini seconding?
I moved. Mkhwanazi seconded.
Okay, thank you, Dlamini. Tisang, the next set.
The next set, Chair, is the minutes of the meeting that took place on the 7th of June when the Director General, the former Director, the suspended Director General, presented the allegations to the committee. That was at the Touch Hotel. Those were members who were present in the meeting. Is the opening and welcome by the chair. The presentation by the suspended Director General of DPE on the allegations, and just a synopsis of what he presented. We did not give the detail of what he presented per se. And then a summary of the deliberations, what the committee discussed with the DG. And then the resolution was that the committee resolved that the minister will be called to make his input to the committee, even if it's during recess period. That will determine the way forward regarding the approach that the committee will take in addressing the issues presented by Mr. Tlakudi. That was the meeting of the 7th of June, Chair.
Okay. Is there any move for the adoption of the minutes, honorable members? Any mover adopting those minutes, honorable members?
Thanks, Senator Mkhwanazi. I move for the adoption.
Okay. The seconder? Is there any second, honorable members?
I second.
Honorable Lamini seconded. I think that's the end of that part in our agenda. Is there any item, Mr. Mushumi, that I've missed?
Yes, Chair, just to update you as a committee that the study tour, we are still waiting the House Chairperson's approval. We submitted 2 weeks ago. But however, for the members who have still not submitted their official passport copies, it might affect in case we get approved to go. It might affect your approval in terms of visas to be able to go to the study tour. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. That's all, honorable members. I think we reached the end of our meeting. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
On a lighter note, it must not be approved. Dignity as happy.